Jack, we've got a big problem. A very big one. Late at night, 11:45 p.m. The phone blared in the dark. Frank Kowalski's voice came through, short but heavy as stone. 3 weeks ago, Jack Nolan thought he had cleared the hardest part. He was hired at Pierce Motors. He had proved himself. He had started the job of his dreams. But he didn't know. The real battle was only beginning. Camden Plant. 532 workers. Current productivity. 78%. The lowest in the entire company. Morale at rock bottom. Trust drained. Hope nearly extinguished. And now, a mechanic from South Philly, without a college degree like Jack, was handed the mission. Save Camden, or watch it collapse. What Jack didn't know, while he patiently built trust, fixed machines, improved working conditions, and believed that hard work would be enough, Thomas Brennan, Chief Financial Officer of Pierce Motors, was quietly preparing the shutdown plan. On paper, the plan looked perfect. Move production to Mexico, cut costs by 40%, eliminate 532 jobs, maximize profit instantly. A flawless decision, if you only looked at the spreadsheet. But for Jack, it meant 532 families facing devastation. And he had only one choice: fight. Not just against broken machines or outdated processes, but against a board of directors who believed people were nothing more than numbers. In the next 90 days, Jack must prove that people matter more than short-term profit, that investing in employees can deliver results beyond expectation, that kindness is not weakness, but strength. He will face the board. He will witness Camden's workers uniting for the first time, like a clenched fist. He will stay up all night under the machines with them. There will be moments when total failure seems inevitable. And there will be one reckless decision, a gamble with everything he has. Will 90 days be enough to change the fate of 532 families? Or will Jack watch everything he has built crumble before his eyes? And when forced to choose between keeping his position or saving their jobs, what will Jack decide? This is the story of an unequal battle, of a man who refused to quit, and of 90 days proving that sometimes what seems impossible can be done. If you want to know whether Jack can save Camden, if you believe in the power of kindness and perseverance, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next gripping chapters. Because the stories most worth watching are the ones that show us. One person can still make a difference. And that story begins 3 weeks after Jack started the job. At Camden Plant, New Jersey. Monday morning, at the plant gate. Jack stood before the 3-story block of gray concrete. From inside, the roar of machines thundered out. The faint smell of metal and oil lingered, an odor that felt far more familiar to him than the gleaming glass towers of Philadelphia. "Mr. Nolan?" A burly man around 50 approached. "I'm Frank Kowalski, shift a supervisor." "I've been assigned to show you around." Frank's tone was neither friendly nor hostile, just cold and matter-of-fact. "Thank you." Jack extended a hand. "Just call me Jack." Frank raised an eyebrow, shook his hand perfunctorily, then turned to lead the way. The factory floor was another world. Massive machines roared, conveyor belts stretched endlessly. Workers in blue uniforms moved between stations. But Jack noticed immediately something was wrong. No laughter, no chatter. The atmosphere thick as if drained of all life. People worked, clocked in, then left. Like machines, not humans. "How many people does the plant employ?" Jack asked as they walked past the main line. 532 full-time workers, 80 temps, Frank recited, as though reading statistics. 3 shifts, 8 hours each. Current output, 78% of target, only 78%. Why so low? Frank stopped, looked Jack straight in the eye. Because people don't want to be here. The answer was blunt, without pretense. Why don't they want to be here? Because they're just numbers, Frank said flatly. The previous director, Richard Moss, only cared about metrics. Didn't matter who was tired, who got injured, who had family problems, as long as the target was met. Didn't meet it? Fired. No explanations, no second chances. Jack nodded slowly, beginning to see why Evelyn needed him here. Frank, I want to meet with the shift supervisors and worker reps. This afternoon, if possible. Frank's eyes flickered with doubt. They won't trust you. We've heard promises from new directors too many times. Nothing ever changes. Then I won't promise, Jack said. I'll ask. And listen, 2 p.m., the plant's conference room. 12 people sat around the long table, 3 shift supervisors, 9 worker representatives. Tired faces, calloused hands, guarded eyes. Jack didn't sit at the head. He chose the middle, at their level. Thank you for taking the time, Jack began. I know everyone's busy, so I won't drag on. I didn't come to announce what I'll do. I came to ask, what's the real problem at Camden Plant? The room fell silent. People glanced at one another, unsure if this was a trap. Finally, a woman spoke, Maria Santos, 42, with 18 years at the plant. The problem is no one listens to us. Could you explain more? Jack asked gently. Maria sighed. Line 3 has had roller issues for 6 months. We reported it many times. No one fixed it. They said, it's still running. Why bother? Last week it broke down completely. 14 hours down. And do you know who they blamed? Us. Said it was poor maintenance. Several heads nodded, frustration surfacing. A younger man spoke up, Tommy Chen, 28. And the ventilation system in Section B. Last summer, it hit 100 degrees. 2 people passed out. We asked for more fans. They said, no budget. But the director's office got brand new air conditioning. Jack jotted careful notes, never cutting anyone off. Frank added, voice low, Mr. Nolan, it's not just the machines. It's the people. Last year, Moss cut 40 workers. Not because they were bad, just to optimize costs. The remaining work was dumped on those left behind. No pay raise, just more pressure. And anyone who complained, Maria continued, got labeled bad attitude, targeted. Written up, some even fired for discipline, which was really retaliation. Jack set his pen down, meeting each pair of eyes. I hear you. And I believe you. Because I've been in that place. Just a worker, ignored, disrespected. I know what that feels like. With all due respect, Mr. Nolan. Tommy frowned. Every new director says that. 2 months later, it's the same old story. You're right, Jack nodded. Words are cheap. Action costs. So I won't make empty promises. But there is something I can do now. He pulled out his phone, dialed. Patrick? Jack here. I need urgent approval for Camden's budget. Line 3 rollers must be replaced immediately. Section B needs 4 industrial fans. Yes, I know it's not in this quarter's plan. If we don't act now, we'll lose more, in productivity and in labor lawsuits. Thank you. Hanging up, Jack looked around. The rollers and fans will be ordered today. Installed within 3 days, jaws dropped. But that's just the start, Jack went on. I want a full list, every issue, machines, safety, working conditions. No edits, no sugarcoating. I want the truth. Then we'll prioritize and tackle them, one by one. Maria studied him, doubt still in her eyes, but also a flicker of hope. What about how we're treated? the way management treats us. Jack drew a deep breath. From now on, no one gets fired for telling the truth. No one gets punished for complaining. If there's an issue, come directly to me. My door is always open. And if I'm not in the office, I'll be on the floor. I believe the best director isn't the one looking down from above, but the one standing beside his people. Frank scanned the room, then spoke. I suggest we give him a chance. 3 months. If nothing changes, we revisit. Nods appeared here and there, then spread all around. 2 weeks later, 11:30 p.m. The phone shattered Jack's sleep. He'd only been out for an hour. What's wrong? His voice was hoarse. Frank here, Mr. Nolan. Emergency. Main lines jammed. Night shifts down. Jack shot upright. Do we know the cause? Not yet. Engineers are guessing. No one's sure. I'll be there. 20 minutes. He dressed quickly. Mia shuffled to his door. Daddy, where are you going? Plant's in trouble, sweetheart. I've got to go. Mia nodded, already used to these late-night calls. Be careful, Daddy. 12:05 a.m. Camden Plant. Jack sped into the lot, rushed inside. The place was eerily quiet. Machines dead, workers gathered around the main line, faces tense. 2 engineers argued at the control panel. Electrical, I'm telling you. No, it's hydraulics. Jack approached, stripped off his jacket, rolled up his sleeves. Let me see. Frank hesitated. You're going to... Find the cause, Jack cut in, kneeling by the line. He placed a hand on the machine, closed his eyes, listening. The familiar undertones of 30 years in the trade returned. Then he slid underneath with a flashlight. Workers circled, watching intently. Hey! 5 minutes later, Jack called out, Secondary relay number 7 is fried. The command isn't reaching the main valve. Lead engineer Derek, a young man, frowned. Impossible. That relay was replaced last month. Maybe the wrong type was installed, Jack crawled out, hands black with grease. Or a counterfeit part slipped in. Bring another relay. Derek hesitated, but Frank barked, Get it for him. 15 minutes later, Jack tightened the last bolt. Try it. Derek pressed the button. The line roared back to life, gears engaging, rollers spinning. The system awoke. Applause broke out. Frank stared at Jack. How did you know? Because I'd seen it before. Jack grinned wearily. 10 years ago, in a South Philly garage. My dad taught me. Machines don't lie. They're just waiting for someone who knows how to listen. Maria stepped forward, handing him a rag. Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Call me Jack, he reminded, wiping his hands. And this is my job. Our job. At 2 a.m., Jack left the plant exhausted, but lightened. Frank walked him out. Mr. Nolan, Jack, I'm sorry I doubted you. No need, Jack smiled. In your shoes, I'd have doubted too. You're not like Moss. Not like any director I've met, because I haven't forgotten where I came from, Frank. And I never will. Next morning, Evelyn Pierce's office. Jack sat opposite, reporting Camden's situation. The rollers and fans are installed. Morale's improving. But there's still a mountain. Old machines, outdated processes, lack of training. Evelyn nodded, taking notes. What do you need from me? Budget and time. You can't turn a place around overnight. You have both, Evelyn smiled. Oh, I heard you were down on the floor fixing the line last night? Who told you that? Frank. He called me this morning. Said for the first time in 5 years, Camden has hope. Jack flushed slightly. I just did what needed to be done. No. Evelyn shook her head. You did what most directors never do. Stood shoulder to shoulder with your workers. That's why I chose you. But when Jack returned to his office, his inbox flashed. An email from Thomas Brennan, CFO. Jack, need to meet ASAP regarding Camden's budget. Jack knew instantly the real battle had only just begun, and soon he would have to choose: stand with the people or stand with the profit. 9 a.m. Wednesday in Pierce Motors' largest boardroom. Jack pushed the door open. The glossy long table, rows of leather chairs, and glass panels overlooking Philadelphia. A place where decisions that could change thousands of lives were made. Thomas Brennan sat at the far left head, Evelyn Pierce opposite on the right, and between them stretched a taut wire of tension ready to snap. "Mr. Nolan, please sit." Thomas pointed to an empty chair, polite but cold. Jack sat down, placing his laptop and folder on the table, feeling the weight of measuring eyes. "We invited you here," Thomas began, "to discuss Camden Plant's budget. In the 3 weeks you've been in charge, operating costs have risen 23%. How do you explain that?" Jack opened his laptop, projecting figures onto the large screen. "Yes, sir. Costs rose because we invested in things neglected for years. Example: Line 3 rollers, without replacement. The risk of a 1-week shutdown, minimum loss, $800,000. Replacement cost, $45,000. That's a smart investment. Margaret Walsh, around 60, representative of a major shareholder, cut in, but that was an unapproved expense. You exceeded your authority." "I informed Patrick Hale, who has approval rights," Jack replied calmly, "and he agreed it was an emergency." "Not only that," Thomas slid a paper across the table. "You also raised salaries for 15 shift supervisors and key engineers, totaling $180,000 a year. Without board approval," Jack nodded. "Correct, because their pay was 18% below industry standard. In the past 6 months, Camden lost 9 experienced engineers. Replacement recruitment and training costs, $320,000. Retention via raises, $180,000. Half the cost, and preserves knowledge?" Walsh frowned. "But here, all major financial decisions must go through the board." "With all due respect, ma'am," Jack said evenly, "if every urgent matter waited for board sessions, Camden would collapse. The board meets monthly. The plant runs 24/7. Reality moves faster than meeting schedules," Thomas faltered, unaccustomed to being countered so directly. Richard Stern, 55, running an investment fund, spoke slowly. "We understand your goodwill, but the board's duty is to protect shareholder interests. Shareholders want profits up, not costs up." "I understand," Jack nodded. "But where does sustainable profit come from?" "From people. Unhappy employees mean poor productivity. Old machines mean no output. Investing in people and infrastructure isn't waste. It's the foundation for long-term profit." "The market demands short-term results," Richard pressed, "quarter by quarter. They don't care about the long term. They want to know how much we make this quarter." Jack exhaled, feeling the invisible wall between where he came from and where he stood. "Mr. Stern," he said slowly, "I used to be a worker. I know the feeling of being reduced to a number on a spreadsheet, working myself ragged and still unable to pay medical bills. The company making millions, while I had to choose between fixing the car or buying food for my kid." His eyes swept the room. "Your shareholders are people. Our employees are people. If we optimize for one side and neglect the other, we lose both. Because companies don't run on money alone. They need people who want to stay." The room fell silent. Thomas spoke again, voice sharp. "Nice ideals, Mr. Nolan. But we run this company on data. And data says Camden is the least efficient in the system." "Exactly," Jack agreed. And not because workers are lazy or weak. Because they've been mismanaged for 5 years. Old equipment never replaced. Complaints ignored. People treated as expendable. Productivity decline was inevitable. So the solution, Walsh asked, keep increasing spending? No, Jack switched slides. The solution is smart investment over the next 6 months, as foundation. Upgrade critical equipment, retrain staff, streamline processes, and build a culture of trust. He laid out each item, weekly timeline, tracking metrics. In conclusion, Jack said, give me 6 months and this budget, and I commit to raising Camden's productivity from 78% to 92%, reducing turnover from 22% to below 10%, which will cut recruitment costs, reduce errors, and ultimately raise profit margins. Thomas turned to Evelyn. Mrs. Pierce, your opinion? Evelyn straightened, her voice calm yet resolute. I support Jack. My father built this company by investing in people, not squeezing them dry, and that will remain our path. You only hold 51%, Richard warned. If you keep voting against, other shareholders might what? Evelyn cut him off, her tone cold. Sell shares? Replace me? Go ahead. Try. But remember, my father didn't build Pierce Motors to become a company obsessed with Excel charts. He built it to create decent jobs for decent people. I won't betray that legacy for impatient short-term shareholders. The air in the room grew heavy. Finally, Thomas sighed. Fine. 6 months. But if Camden fails to meet targets, we'll reconsider strategy, including leadership changes. Jack nodded. I understand. The meeting ended at 11:30. Out in the hallway, Jack walked out as though leaving a battlefield. Evelyn followed close. Thank you, Jack said quietly, for standing by me. I didn't stand by you, Evelyn smiled. I stood by what's right. But Jack, they'll scrutinize you mercilessly. Every number, every decision. If you slip, they'll use it against not only you, but me too. I know, Jack nodded. I won't let you down. Not for me, Evelyn shook her head. For everyone who believes in this path. If we fail, they'll say humane leadership doesn't work. The damage will be bigger than Pierce Motors alone. That evening, around 7:30 at the trailer park, Jack came home later than usual. On the kitchen table sat a plate of canned pasta Mia had cooked herself, while she hunched over homework. The moment she saw him, Mia leapt up and hugged tight. Daddy's home! How was today? Jack sat down exhausted. Hard, sweetheart. Very hard. Did they bother you, Daddy? Jack chuckled faintly. Not exactly bother. Just, they don't yet understand why I do what I do. Mia thought for a moment. Like at school. Some kids said I was dumb for helping another student with homework. They said if I didn't help, that kid would fail, and I'd have a better chance at the top. And what did you say? I said Mom taught me. My success means nothing if I let someone else fail when I could have helped. Mia's face was solemn. And I believe Mom was right. Jack hugged her, eyes stinging. Your mom taught you something beautiful, and you're making her very proud. So is Daddy, Mia grinned. I know your job is hard, but you're doing what's right, and people who do what's right win in the end. Mom said that too. That night, when Mia was asleep, Jack opened his laptop at the kitchen table and typed an email to all of Camden. Dear Camden team, today I had to defend you before the board. They wanted to cut costs. I told them, you are not costs. You are assets. We have 6 months to prove it. 6 months to show that when people are respected and invested in, they deliver beyond expectations. I cannot do this alone. I need you, your trust, your effort, your commitment. If we succeed, we won't just save Camden. We'll prove there's a better way to do business, treating people as people. Thank you for believing in me. Jack Nolan. He hit send, leaned back, and closed his eyes. In his mind, his father's voice echoed, "Son, the right road was never the easy one, but it's the only one worth walking." "I know, Dad," Jack whispered. "I know." Next morning, 6:30 a.m. at Camden plant, half an hour before shift start. But as Jack entered the main hall, he froze. Nearly 100 workers were already gathered, waiting. Frank Kowalski stepped forward. "Jack, we read your email." "And?" Jack asked, unease flickering. "And we want you to know. We're with you," Frank said firmly. "6 months, you said? We'll show them what Camden can do." Maria Santos stepped up, handing Jack a large board covered in signatures, 487 in all, almost the entire plant. At the bottom it read, "We believe in Jack. We believe in Camden. Together, we win." Jack clutched the board, unable to hide his tear-filled eyes. "Thank you," he said, voice breaking. "Thank you, everyone." Tommy Chen grinned wide. "Don't thank us yet. We've got a long list of things that need fixing." Laughter rippled through the hall, and in that laughter, Jack felt the one thing long lost at Camden: hope. The fight ahead would be long, but now he no longer had to fight it alone. 3 months later, in September, time rushed by like a whirlwind. Jack lived on a breathless rhythm. Up at 5 a.m., walk Mia to school, at Camden by 7, work until 7 p.m., dinner with his daughter, then back to the desk past midnight. But day by day, drop by drop, tiny changes stacked up into results. Weeks 1 to 4. Jack walked through every workshop, shook hands with every team lead, listened to every complaint. He didn't promise instant fixes, but he wrote everything down. And more importantly, did exactly what he said he would. Line 3 got a full upgrade. Section B's ventilation was thoroughly repaired. The workers' break room was repainted, and new fridges and microwaves were added. Small things that spoke volumes. Weeks 5 to 8. Jack launched a new training program, not just technical, but leadership skills. He selected 20 promising workers to train as future shift supervisors. "You are the people who know best what happens here," Jack said at the kickoff. "And you'll also be the best leaders, because you understand people." Weeks 9 to 12. Culture sprouted. People stopped just doing the job and going home. They began proposing improvements and caring about quality, not only quantity. Maria Santos suggested tweaking a small step in the assembly process, saving 3 minutes per cycle. Multiply that by 1,000 units per day, and it's 50 hours a week. Jack didn't just approve. He gave Maria a $2,000 bonus and recognized her in front of the entire plant. "This is how we win," Jack told the all-hands. "Not because I think of everything, but because we build together." End of September, Jack sat in his office watching the numbers on the screen. Productivity, 78%, 87%, target 92%. Defect rate, 4.2%, 2.1%. Turnover, 22%, 8%. Workplace accidents, down 60%. Beautiful numbers, but not yet the benchmark he had promised the board. He needed 3 more months. Would they grant them? His phone buzzed. Evelyn calling. "Jack, board meeting Thursday. They want to see Camden's progress. I'll be ready." "Jack." Evelyn hesitated. "Thomas is rallying members against us. He wants to shut Camden, move production to Mexico. 40% cheaper." Jack's heart sank. "That's 532 people losing their jobs." "I know. That's why you need the best presentation of your life. Not just numbers, but persuading them that people matter more than short-term profit. Wednesday night, at the trailer park, Jack sat at the kitchen table building slides. Mia worked on homework beside him, glancing up now and then. "Daddy, are you worried?" "Yes, a little." "Because of work?" Jack nodded. "Some people want to shut Camden down." A lot of people would lose their jobs, Mia thought for a moment. Like when my school was going to close the library to save money. Remember? Then some moms spoke up and said the library mattered more than the money. So they didn't close it. Jack smiled. "What are you trying to say?" "Just tell the truth, Daddy. Tell them the people at Camden are real people, with real families and real dreams, not just numbers." Jack hugged her. "You're so smart. And you just gave Daddy an idea." Thursday, 2 p.m. Boardroom. Jack walked in carrying his laptop, charts, and a thick photo album. 7 members were already seated around the table. Thomas Brennan leaned back, confident, primed to attack. "Mr. Nolan," Thomas opened, "your report shows improvement, but not enough to keep pouring money into Camden. We have another proposal." He tapped the remote. The screen lit up. "Close Camden. Move to Monterrey, Mexico. Labor 42% lower, no unions, fewer constraints. Profits up an estimated 18% in year 1. Cold numbers, economically elegant. 532 people will lose their jobs," Jack said quietly. "They'll receive severance per the law," Thomas replied. "We're not doing anything wrong." "Not legally wrong," Jack nodded, "but wrong ethically." Richard Stern shook his head. "We run a company, not a charity. Decisions are based on economic logic." "Fine," Jack stood. "Then let's talk economics." He advanced the slides. In the last 3 months, defects dropped from 4.2% to 2.1%. That saves $340,000 a month in rework. Next slide. Turnover 22% to 8%. Recruitment/training savings, $180,000 per quarter. Next slide. Accidents down 60%. Insurance and compensation reduced by $95,000 a year. Thomas cut in. "Good, but still doesn't beat Mexico." "Correct, if you only look at Excel," Jack said. "But there are things Excel doesn't capture." He opened the photo album and set it in the middle of the table. Maria Santos, 42, 18 years at Camden. Widowed by cancer, raising 3 kids alone. Close Camden, and she either drives 60 miles a day to another plant or goes jobless, and on to assistance. Next page. Tommy Chen, 28. Sends money to support elderly parents in Philadelphia. Lose his job, his parents lose medicine. Another page. Frank Kowalski, 52. His daughter is the first in the family to go to college. If Frank loses his job, she drops out. Jack looked around. Mr. Thomas says 532 people. But that's not 532 labor units. That's 532 human beings, each with a family, a story, a dream, each believing that hard work will be met with fairness. Margaret Walsh's eyes softened as she looked at the photos. Jack clicked to a new slide. One more thing Thomas didn't factor. Reputation. Pierce Motors was built by Samuel Pierce, who believed in caring for people. For 40 years, we've been known as a great place to work. That's why we attract talent and why customers trust us. Shutting Camden to run to Mexico for profit alone. What message does that send? Profit greater than people. Loyalty isn't reciprocated. Pierce Motors is no longer the company Samuel founded. He paused to let it sink in. And once you lose reputation, you can't buy it back. Thomas faltered. He hadn't planned for this line of argument. Evelyn spoke evenly, but steel hard. My father always said, "Profit measures the present. Reputation measures the future. If we sacrifice the future for the present, we're making the wrong bet." Richard snorted. Pretty words. But shareholders don't pay for reputation. They want returns. They'll get them, Jack said. Give me 3 more months. If Camden doesn't hit 92% by year-end like I promised, I'll resign. No pleading, Thomas glanced around. More time. When do we stop waiting? When you grant a fair chance, Jack answered. You want 30 years of mismanagement corrected in 3 months. Unrealistic. But if you honor the 6 months already committed, I'll prove it. Margaret Walsh, silent until now, slowly turned to Thomas. If we move to Mexico, can you guarantee the same quality as Camden? Thomas hesitated. There will be a period of adjustment. How long? Perhaps a year to reach parity. A year of fluctuating quality, customer complaints, risk of losing contracts, versus 3 more months for Camden to prove itself. Which is riskier? Thomas didn't answer immediately. Walsh turned to Evelyn. I propose a vote. Grant Camden 3 more months, with the condition that if targets aren't met, we consider the Mexico option. All in favor? Evelyn raised her hand. Walsh raised hers. Patrick Hale raised his. David Reeves hesitated, then raised his hand too. 4-4, 3 against. Carried. Walsh tapped the gavel. Mr. Nolan, you have until year-end. Jack exhaled, knowing this was only a lull before the final round. 6 p.m., Jack called Frank Kowalski directly. Frank, we've got 3 months left. If we don't hit 92%, Camden closes. Silence on the other end for a beat. I understand, Frank said softly. We'll get it done, Jack. I promise, don't promise, Jack's voice gentled. Just give it everything. That's enough. 8:30 p.m. back home. Jack opened the trailer door, spent. Mia was waiting at the kitchen table. Daddy! How did it go? Jack hugged her. We've got 3 months, Angel. 3 months to save Camden. You'll do it, Mia said firmly. Because you're the man who doesn't give up. How do you know that? Because when Mom died, you didn't give up on me. You fought for me, and now you're fighting for so many others. That's who you are. Tears spilled as Jack held her. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Mia. That night, after Mia slept, Jack spread out photos of Camden's workers on the table. 532 faces. 532 stories. 532 reasons not to quit. He opened his notebook and wrote, 90 days. Just that. Not much, but enough. If we trust each other. If we fight together. If we remember this isn't about numbers, it's about people. Outside the window a star flickered. Dad, Jack whispered, I need you now more than ever. Stay with me. As if in answer, his phone buzzed. A text from Maria Santos. Jack, the entire night shift volunteers to work extra hours without pay this weekend to boost output. We will save Camden. Together, Jack smiled through tears. They hadn't lost. Not yet. October. Day 1 of the 90 days. Monday morning, Jack stood before all 532 employees in Camden's largest cafeteria. People were packed shoulder to shoulder, some spilling out the doors. The air was thick, like moments before a battle. I won't lie to you, Jack began, his voice calm but steely. We have 90 days. If we don't reach 92% productivity, the board will shut down Camden and move production to Mexico. 532 jobs will vanish. Whispers rippled like wind. But I believe we can do it, Jack continued. Not because I'm good, but because you are. Over the last 3 months, I've seen what happens when people are respected, trusted, and invested in. He swept his gaze over the sea of faces. I can't save Camden alone. Neither can you. But if we stand shoulder to shoulder, not out of fear but out of pride, we'll prove this. People are always stronger than machines, and heart always beats cold optimization. Frank Kowalski stepped forward. Jack has fought for us. Now it's our turn to fight for each other. Who's ready? A thunderous roar answered, shaking the room. The energy across the plant changed after that meeting. Morning, afternoon, night shift. Everyone pushed harder, not because they were forced to, but because they wanted to. Tommy Chen volunteered to stay 2 extra hours a day to mentor new workers, refusing extra pay. If Camden survives, we'll need more good people. Maria Santos formed a continuous improvement group. 15 workers met on their own every Saturday morning to dissect processes. In just 4 weeks, they produced 37 small ideas, each saving a few minutes, adding up to a big difference. Jack hardly sat in his office. From 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., he was on the floor. When a machine failed, he was the first under it. When workers were tired, he brought coffee and a hand on the shoulder. You don't need to do that, Frank said one afternoon, catching Jack changing oil on the main engine, grease smeared on him. I do, Jack replied. If I'm calling everyone to fight, I need to be beside them, not behind them. End of October. Productivity, 88.5%, up 1.5%, short by 3.5%. Defect rate, 1.8%, continuing to drop. Employee morale, 94%, highest ever. Good, but not enough. Time began to tighten. Pressure seeped into every face. One Monday morning, Jack found Roberto Martinez, 58, asleep next to a machine. Roberto! Jack gently shook him. You okay? He startled awake, eyes bloodshot. Sorry, Jack. I'm just a little tired. How many hours yesterday? 16. I picked up the night shift to boost output. Jack sat beside him. I appreciate your effort. But if you burn out, you'll make mistakes. Or worse, get hurt. I don't want to save Camden by burning through people's health. But we need 92%. Not at any cost, Jack said, firm. Go home and rest. Tomorrow, we work smarter. Word of that conversation spread through the plant. The result was the opposite of what some feared. No one slacked. People felt respected and worked more effectively. 11:45 p.m., Jack had just dozed off when the phone screamed. Jack, it's Maria. We've got a big problem. What is it? Line 5 is running 7% slower than last month. No error reports. That's impossible. I don't get it either. But if we don't fix it, we'll never hit 92%. Jack jolted up. By 12:30 a.m., he was at Camden. Maria, Frank, and 3 engineers were waiting. They traced each section, dismantled assemblies. 2 hours passed. No culprit. Maybe the old machine is just gradually slowing, one engineer shrugged. Machines don't slow 7% in a month for no reason. Jack shook his head. There has to be a cause. He knelt, pressed a hand to the housing, closed his eyes, listened the way his father had taught him. Then he felt it. A faint vibration, an uneven cadence, like a heart skipping a beat. Here, he pointed to the auxiliary gearbox. Something's in here. They opened it. A gear with a hairline crack, not shattered, but enough to drag the entire line down. We'll need a new gear, Frank said. Solid type, ordered from Germany, minimum 2 weeks. We don't have 2 weeks, Maria worried. Jack studied the crack, calculating. There's one option. Repair by welding. Not perfect, but enough to buy time until the new part arrives. Risky, Frank grimaced. If it fails under load, the line blows. Down at least a week. I know, Jack nodded. Do nothing, and failure is certain. Do this, and we've got a shot. They called Victor, master welder, 65, close to retirement. This has to be like heart surgery, Jack said. Off by a hair. We lose everything. Victor looked at the crack, then at Jack. I'll do it. Not for the company, for you. You've made me proud of my craft one last time. They worked through the night. Victor welded with an artist's precision. Jack held the light, kept the tempo. At 5:30 a.m., they reinstalled the gear. Moment of truth. Frank set his hand on the start button. The machine trembled to life. Gears meshed smoothly. Rollers turned. 1 rotation, 2, 10. No abnormal vibration. It's running, Maria cried. They hugged. Jack squeezed Victor's hand. You saved Camden. No, Victor smiled, eyes glistening. You did. I just added a bead. Productivity, 90.8%. So close. 1.2% to go. But ideas felt squeezed dry. Jack gathered the shift leads. 1 more month. We need the final 1.2%. Ideas? Silence. Then Lisa Chen, 26, raised a tentative hand. I have a weird idea. Go ahead. Shift handoffs are taking 15 minutes. If we set a clear checklist and share info faster, we could save 10 minutes per handoff. 3 shifts per day equals 30 minutes. Over a month, that's 15 extra production hours. Jack's eyes lit up. Brilliant. Do it. They rolled it out that week, and the effect was immediate. Productivity, 91.6%, short by 0.4%. A gap so small it hurt. But people were exhausted. For the first time, Jack felt despair. He called Evelyn. We're at 91.6%. I don't know where to find the last 0.4%. Evelyn hesitated. Maybe that's enough. I'll try to persuade the board. No, Jack cut in. I promised 92%. Almost will prove Thomas right. What do you need then? A miracle. The miracle didn't come. Unity did. The rumor, short by 0.4%, spread. No one balked. People got angry. We've come too far to quit, Maria said at an impromptu huddle. 0.4 is 2 units per shift, Tommy calculated. We can do it. Frank stood. Last 10 days. Sleep or not, we fight. Because this isn't just a job, this is our values. It's proving Camden deserves to exist. Another roar shook the walls. 3 a.m. Wednesday. The phone shrieked. Frank shouted into it. Jack, main power grid failure. The entire plant's down. No backup. Jack's heart stopped. How long? Electrician says at least 18 hours. Maybe 2 days. 2 days out of the last 5, Camden was finished. Jack tore into the night. At the plant, not just Frank, nearly 100 workers had shown up on their own. What do we do? Maria asked. Jack scanned the tired but resolute faces. These were people who had poured 3 months into this. They weren't going to lose at the finish line. There's one way, Jack said slowly. Mobile generators. We need 3. $15,000 each per day. 5 days is $75,000. I don't have approval authority. Then get it approved, Tommy snapped. It's 3 a.m. Patrick won't pick up. Evelyn's in Boston. By morning, approvals will eat the whole day. Frank looked him straight on. Jack, use personal funds. I don't have $75,000. Then borrow. Pawn your home. Do whatever it takes. If I do and we still fail, I'm bankrupt. Then we shoulder it with you, Maria said. Everyone chips in. We share the fire. Jack looked at 100 faces waiting for his answer. This was the moment. Bet everything or walk away. He thought of Mia, the bills, the future. Then of the 532 families beyond those gates. All right, he said. I'll put up my home. We'll rent the generators. Within 2 hours, Jack signed papers to pawn the trailer, the only asset he had. 3 massive generators were hauled to Camden. By 8 a.m., the lines roared back to life. Jack understood. He had just wagered everything. If they failed, he'd lose it all. Saturday, New Year's Eve, and the last day of the 90 days. 6 a.m., Jack stood before the digital board showing real-time productivity. 91.9%. Another 0.1%. 0.1%. One more shift, Frank said. If the last shift runs without errors, we hit 92%. Jack nodded, barely daring to breathe. The final shift ran in taut silence. No one spoke. No one took breaks. 7 p.m. 91.92%. 8 p.m. 91.94%. 9 p.m. 91.97%. So close it hurt. 10 p.m. The end of shift bell rang. The screen ticked one last time. Every eye was glued to it. 92.01%. For a heartbeat, no one believed it. Then an explosion. Cheers like thunder. People hugged, jumped, cried like children. Maria threw her arms around Jack, tears streaming. We did it! We did it. Jack's knees buckled. The strain of 3 months released in an instant. Frank hauled him up. You saved us, Jack. You saved Camden. No. Jack shook his head, looking at the tear-bright faces all around. We saved Camden. Together that night, they threw a party right on the factory floor. No expensive champagne, just pizza and soda. But it was the most priceless celebration of their lives. Because they hadn't just hit a number. They proved people matter more than profit. That kindness isn't weakness. And that when we stand united, nothing is impossible. Monday, January 3rd. Boardroom. Jack stepped into the room where the futures of thousands were usually decided. But this time, he didn't walk in alone. At his side were Frank Kowalski, Maria Santos, and Tommy Chen, 3 representatives for Camden's 532 people. Evelyn had signed off for their attendance, despite Thomas Brennan's heated objection. This is a board meeting, not an employee gathering, Thomas snapped. And this is a meeting about their fate, Evelyn replied, cold as steel. They have a right to be present. 7 board members were seated around the long table. Jack stood before the big screen and opened the year-end report. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, calm and resolute. 3 months ago, I promised to bring Camden to 92% productivity. Today, I'm here to report back. He clicked. The first slide appeared. Camden plant productivity. Target, 92%. Actual, 92.01%. Thomas frowned, riffling through figures on his device. You beat the target by exactly 0.01%? That's right, Jack nodded. We hit that number at 10 p.m. on December 31st, the final hour of the final day. Margaret Walsh smiled slightly. You do like drama, Mr. Nolan. Not drama, ma'am, Jack said, just not giving up until the last second. The next slide came up, a string of sharply improved metrics. Defect rate, 4.2% to 1.5%, down 64%. Workplace accidents, 18 incidents per quarter to 3 incidents per quarter, down 83%. Turnover, 22% to 6%, down 73%. Employee satisfaction, 3.2 out of 10 to 8.7 out of 10. Operating costs down $340,000 per quarter thanks to reduced defects and rework. Jack continued. More important, Camden just received 3 new contracts totaling $12 million because customers heard about our improved quality and reliability. Richard Stern sat up. 3 new contracts? Why haven't I seen them? Because they were signed last week, Evelyn said evenly. They reached out to us after hearing about Camden's transformation. Thomas remained unmoved. These numbers are good, but Mexico is still 40% cheaper. Profits would be higher if we move on paper. Yes, Jack acknowledged. But have you accounted for hidden costs? A new slide appeared. Hidden costs of moving to Mexico. Closing Camden, $8.5 million. Severance, $4.2 million. New facility build-out, $18 million. Training new workforce, $3.5 million. Lost customers due to disruption, $6 to $10 million. Estimated. Reputational damage, incalculable initial cost, total, $40 to $44 million. That's only the opening bill, Jack stressed. Then there's risk. 12 to 18 months of likely quality slippage, complex logistics, political instability, language and cultural barriers. David Reeves tilted his head. So, your proposal? Keep Camden running, Jack said, enunciating each word. Continue investing in people and infrastructure. Make it a model plant. Proof that investing in employees yields sustainable profit. And if I say no, Thomas growled, I still propose closure. Jack looked him in the eye. Then you'll have to look 532 people in the eyes and tell them that even though they fought and hit the target, they're still not good enough. That money matters more than people. He turned to the room. I don't believe you are those kinds of people. Great companies aren't built by squeezing the vulnerable dry, but by investing in them. Frank asked to speak. Thomas moved to block it, but Evelyn nodded. Frank, broad-shouldered, calloused hands, stepped up, voice rough with emotion. I've been at Camden 23 years. I've seen 3 directors come and go. No one really cared about us. We were just numbers. He swallowed. Until Jack. For the first time in 23 years, someone asked me my name, where my kid goes to school, and how my wife's health is. He stared straight at Thomas. Maybe that's small to you. To me, it's everything. It makes me want to show up, do great work, and see Camden succeed. Maria Santos stood. My daughter, 16, just got a full scholarship to Penn State, the first in our family to go to college. In her scholarship essay, she wrote about Jack, about how he taught us that no job is small when you do it with pride. Tommy Chen followed, young voice steady. My generation was taught we're replaceable numbers, that companies don't care. Camden changed that. If you shut Camden after all we've achieved, you'll prove my generation's cynicism right. The room sagged into heavy silence. Walsh broke it first. I apologize for doubting you, Mr. Nolan. You've proven me wrong, Patrick Hale nodded. Camden didn't just meet. It exceeded. That's due to Jack's leadership. Even Richard Stern, the hardest liner on profits, admitted, I didn't think this was possible. But results don't lie. All eyes turned to Thomas. He looked down at the numbers again and sighed. I still think Mexico yields more over the long term, but I also have to admit, Camden exceeded all my expectations. He looked at Jack. You won the bet, Mr. Nolan. I withdraw my proposal to close Camden, at least for this year. Not warm praise, but enough to seal it. Evelyn stood. Let's vote. Keep Camden operating and continue investment per Jack's proposal. 7 hands rose. Unanimous. Evelyn smiled, truly relieved for the first time in months. Camden will continue operating. Jack looked down at Frank, Maria, and Tommy, their eyes all rimmed red. He couldn't hold his own back either. That afternoon, Jack drove straight to the plant. As he turned into the lot, he froze. All 532 workers stood waiting at the gate. They had left their stations to await the news. Jack stepped out. The crowd held its breath, searching his face. Behind him, Frank, along with Maria and Tommy, broke into radiant grins. "We won!" Frank shouted. A roar crashed like surf. People hugged, laughed through tears, called home, dropped to their knees in thanks. Jack was swallowed by embraces, thank yous, faces wet with joy. "Thank you, Jack. You saved my family. I'll never forget this." Victor, the 65-year-old welder, came and squeezed him tight. 40 years on the job, and these last 3 months were the first time I felt my work truly mattered. "Thank you, kid." That night, Jack got home at 8, exhausted, but glowing. Mia flew into his arms. "Daddy, we won, didn't we?" "We won, Angel." Jack spun her around. "Camden is saved." "I knew it!" Mia beamed like sunshine. They ordered pizza. For the first time in 3 months, Jack ate without the shadow of worry. "Things will be better now, right, Daddy?" "They will." He smoothed her hair. "I promise." "Will we have a real house?" "Soon," he smiled. "But remember, houses matter less than the people in them. As long as I have you, anywhere is home. I love you, Daddy." "Daddy loves you too, Angel." When Mia slept, Jack opened his notebook. He flipped back to the first page, the vow he'd written when he entered Pierce Motors. Then he added a new page. 1/3, the day we turned the impossible into possible. Camden didn't just survive. Camden proved that when people are respected, trusted, invested in, they create miracles. Today isn't an ending, but a beginning. A new way to work, a new kind of leadership. A future where people aren't costs to be cut, but assets to be honored. Dad, if you're watching, I hope you're proud. I lived what you taught me. Today, I proved you right. He closed the notebook, looked out at the starry night, heart light as wind, as if he could see his father and Sarah smiling. 6 months later, everything had changed. Camden didn't just hold 92%, it shot up to 94%, becoming Pierce Motors' most efficient plant. Jack was promoted to deputy COO of the entire company, yet still spent 2 days a week at Camden, right there on the floor. Mia started piano lessons, paid for with the bonus from the Save Camden campaign. And most important, father and daughter left the trailer park. Not a mansion, just a small 3-bedroom house, one for Jack, one for Mia, and one guest room, mostly empty because guests were rare, but the backyard was big enough for a vegetable garden. That was enough. One weekend evening in July. The doorbell rang. Evelyn stood there, not in power suit, but jeans and a tee, a box of pastries in her arms. "Evelyn, is something wrong?" "Nothing urgent," she smiled. "I was thinking about dinner at your trailer. I wondered if I could visit the new place." "Of course!" Jack opened the door wide. Mia ran out, chattering. "Ms. Evelyn came to see our new house." "That's right, sweetheart." They gave Evelyn the tour. A modest, warm home, family photos on the walls, Jack's father's toolbox on the shelf, and outside, lush tomatoes and climbing beans. "It's beautiful," Evelyn said sincerely. "It feels like a family." "Stay for dinner?" Mia asked. "We have pasta." Evelyn looked at Jack. "We'd love that," Jack nodded. Dinner was simple. Pasta with tomato sauce, meatballs, salad, the pastries Evelyn brought, but full of laughter. Ms. Evelyn, Mia asked idly, do you get lonely? Mia, Jack gently cautioned. It's okay, Evelyn smiled, a little sad. And to be honest, yes, sometimes very. Then, why don't you come here more often? Mia said guilelessly. We like having you here. Right, Daddy? Jack's smile was warm. Always. You're always welcome. Evelyn's eyes shimmered. Thank you. That means more than you know. When Mia went to her room, Jack and Evelyn sat on the back porch under the stars. Jack, I'd want to say something, Evelyn began. Is something wrong? No, it's just, you didn't only change Camden, you changed me. Jack was surprised. Before I met you, I'd forgotten why my father built Pierce Motors. Pressure from the board, shareholders, the market, made me believe profit was everything. She paused, swallowing. You reminded me, the best companies are the ones that care for their people. Now, I want to take Camden's lessons company-wide. That's a big challenge, Jack said. I know. But if you transformed Camden in 3 months, maybe I can transform the whole company in 3 years. She turned to him, earnest. And I hope you'll be by my side. Jack smiled. I'm not going anywhere. They sat together in gentle silence, facing a future opening up, where kindness isn't seen as weakness, where people are respected for who they are, where success is measured by the lives improved, not just the profit sheet. 2 years later, Camden became a case study at business schools, proof that investing in people yields superior results. Pierce Motors replicated Camden's model at other plants. Employee satisfaction plus 65%, productivity plus 28%, record profits. Maria Santos was appointed director of Camden plant, the first Latina woman in senior management at the company. Tommy Chen completed an MBA sponsored by the company and became director of innovation. Frank Kowalski retired after 25 years, not because he had to, but because he was ready to spend time with his grandchild. At his farewell party, he cried, "The last 2 years at Camden were the best of my career." Mia, 11, studying piano, had just won first prize at the state youth talent competition. On stage, she said, "I dedicate this award to my dad, the one who taught me that, with enough love and effort, nothing is impossible." Jack was now the chief operating officer of Pierce Motors, but every Friday he still went down to the Camden floor, because he never forgot where he came from. His father's toolbox sat in the headquarters office, reminding him every day, no job is small if done with pride, no success is meaningful if achieved by stepping on others. One evening, Jack read Mia a bedtime story. "Daddy, is Mom proud of us?" "Daddy knows she is. And she's smiling at us. What about Grandpa?" "Not a shred of doubt, Angel." Mia pondered. "If that day you hadn't stopped to help Miss Evelyn, everything would be different, right?" "Maybe," Jack nodded. "But Grandpa taught Daddy, and Daddy wants to teach you, that the most important decisions aren't the ones that bring the most gain, but the ones that reveal who you are. Sometimes, the right choice is the choice that accepts sacrifice. Like when you missed the interview to help Ms. Evelyn?" "Exactly. If I hadn't stopped, maybe I would have arrived on time. But I wouldn't be the man your mom loved, your grandpa was proud of, and you admire." Mia hugged his neck tight. "I'm proud of you, Daddy." Every day Jack kissed her forehead. "And that's why Daddy keeps going. Not for money or titles, but for you, because you deserve a father to be proud of." "I already have one," Mia whispered, eyelids drooping. "I have the best dad in the world." When Mia slept, Jack sat a while longer, then went to the living room and opened an old photo album. One photo from the first day at Camden, the plant dim and heavy, faces weary. A recent one, Camden bright, laughter ringing. He flipped further. A picture of three, Jack, Evelyn, and Mia, at the opening of the Samuel Pierce Scholarship Fund, a program Evelyn created for the children of Pierce Motors workers. In the first year, 15 students received scholarships, among them Maria's daughter. Jack smiled, remembering Evelyn's speech. "My father taught that true success is measured by how many people you help, not how much money you make. This fund is how we extend that legacy." Drawn from someone who reminded me of my father's most important lesson. People are always worth investing in. His phone buzzed. A text from Evelyn. "Jack, Harvard Business Review just emailed. They want to write about Camden and Pierce Motors. Can they interview you next week?" Jack replied, "Yes. But make sure to invite Frank, Maria, Tommy. This isn't my story. It's ours, Evelyn." "Exactly. Thank you for everything." Jack put the phone away and stepped onto the porch. The sky was clear, stars bright. He looked for the brightest one. "Dad," he whispered, "I did it. Not alone, but I did it. I hope you see." A cool breeze drifted by. No words, but the answer settled in his chest. A deep peace that comes from walking the right road. He thought about the 2-year journey. From a mechanic in a trailer park, weighed down by bills, to a leader helping shape a company's future. From a father afraid he couldn't give his child a better life, to the anchor that lets Mia spread her wings. From one small decision on I-95, pulling over to help a stranger, to changing the lives of 532 families. Not because he was especially smart or wealthy, but because he believed his father's words. People matter more than profit. Kindness isn't weakness. And sometimes, the hardest choice is the right one. "Thank you, Dad," Jack said softly. He turned off the light and stepped into the house where his daughter slept, where every morning was a fresh chance to prove that kindness can change the world. The journey wasn't over. It had only just begun. The story of Jack Nolan isn't about a man becoming rich or famous. It's about a man choosing to do what's right, when right is harder than easy. A story about holding on to values in shifting times. About the belief that everyone deserves respect and a chance. In a world where profit often stands above people, where success is measured by account balances instead of lives lifted, this story reminds us, kindness has power. Integrity has value. And the decisions that shape our lives aren't the most profitable ones, but the ones that say who we are. Next time you stand between the easy thing and the right thing, between self-interest and helping others, between fleeting glory and lasting legacy, remember Jack Nolan, the man who pulled over in the rain and with one simple choice changed his life and the lives of hundreds of others. In the end, we are not remembered for what we have, but for what we give. Not for the titles we reach, but for the lives we touch. Not for the scoreboard, but for the character we kept on the road that took us there.